Terrific. Well, thanks for the invite. My call, as you said, was WA2NDV. I've been around as a ham now 50 years, 50. I don't know how this has happened, but it has somehow. We've done other, been on the air on and off during those 50 years, HF, VHF. I was around LIMARC back in the day. Joe Kolb, if that rings a bell to any of the members who might have some longevity in the club. He actually hired me at NBC, where I spent about 18 years doing live television. And if you were on packet radio back in the day, we had a packet station up at 30 Rock, and we had connections via data links to London and Burbank. We just had a ball in this hobby, and now it has morphed into giving trying my hand at satellite operations. It happened about 3 years ago. I don't profess to be an expert in it. It started out as a proof of concept, and I've gotten bitten by it. I've made about 600 contacts and probably worked maybe a dozen countries. So it is possible, and we'll get into that. That's a little background on my part. Like I say, this has been my experience on starting from knowing nothing about satellites and where to find information. It's scattered all over the internet in bits and pieces, and I've tried to put it together to show you, to save you guys some time and see if you enjoy this particular mode. So a couple of different types of satellites, and we'll take questions at the end. We'll stick around as long as you would like. Two different kinds of satellites. FM, the FM satellites are up. There's a couple of FM satellites. It's only one frequency. It's like a repeater in orbit. And the conversation goes very quickly. It's a call and it's a grid square and you're done. That's basically how it works. It's you know, W1AW, WA2NDV, Fox November 30. Slam bam, it's over. That's fun to a certain point. Once you've accomplished it, you say, okay, I've made a satellite contact, and that's pretty cool. And a lot of people do enjoy chasing grids and getting VUCC awards, which would be 100 grids on satellite, and it's a lot of fun. It's short and sweet, but you can have some fun with that. We have the sideband satellites, which are also called linear satellites. They have a 20 kc wide passband. Now another one has come up with 30 kc wide, and it's sideband up on 432 and down on 2 meters. Most of the satellites are up on 432 and down on 2. You can actually have a QSO for the length of the pass, and I've had many a nice QSO for a pass on a satellite, roughly 12 to 14 minutes, somewhere around that, depending on which way it's coming from, how high it is off the horizon. And you can have some fun there, and there's many conversations going on, and it's quite enjoyable. Then we have data satellites, and we have one data ISS. So the ISS station has a packet repeater on board, a digipeater, and I'll show you how you can actually send packets through the ISS as it comes over and have sort of a little bit of a conversation with another person using a particular piece of software and using messaging through APRS. And for those people who don't like to talk or are mic shy, you can always download from the satellites, FM and the sideband satellites, the health of the satellite. And you can become part of the community that uploads automatically through some software, which is free, to the data warehouse. So the operators of the satellite can get a full orbit representation of how the satellite is performing. And it's like everyone contributes to it, and they enjoy that, for those who are mic shy. Okay, so what satellites are up there? This was the hardest part for me when I started. what's actually up there and what's running. You know, stuff goes on to the internet. A lot of it doesn't come back off the internet once it's up there. Thank goodness. And by the way, if you notice up here, and this will be posted, I'm going to send it to the club, and I'll have this posted so you can download the stack here of my presentation. These links are live. I've put the links up here, and if you click on them, if I go there now, I don't know what's going to happen with my screen. So when you get the stack, you can try this. But this is a representation along the left-hand side of the satellites that are up and known to be operating, or current, let's say current. And this is the status of them. The yellow is telemetry beacon only. The blue is when they're actually up. And this, again, is community reporting. So we know that this is the latest information of what's up. Sometimes the satellites are turned off by the operators, and sometimes they're turned back on. So you want to know, are they operating? What has the community said? What have they said? And you can see here, like XW2A, no problem. XW2B, see here, telemetry was off for this one particular pass, this person. And if you hover on this, you'll see the person who actually reported and where they're located. XW2C, D, E, F. Now you see, you wouldn't go chasing this guy because XW2D has been having trouble and it's in red. It's just not there. So this is how you know what's up, what's available in real time. But now you say, okay, SO50 says it's up, but where is it? This is really the best part of the presentation, really. This gives you everything you need to know to work a satellite, because you can see that SO50 here is coming up in 1 minute. This is its orbit number, and this is the date, May 11th is when I took this. The maximum elevation of that satellite is 11 degrees. Well, that's all well and good, but it's going to start at 158 degrees, mid-range 119, and it's going to come down in 56. So you get an idea that this is where it's coming from, some like the from the south here. And you get a representation. This is for AO73, which is what I have selected here. See, AO73 has been selected, so it's showing me AO73. So let's take AO73. This is coming up maximum elevation of 65 degrees, starting at 159, coming around the east at 68, and passing back through north at 351. So you know where to point. This will show you where to point. This will move and track with azimuth and elevation. But more so, here are the Doppler corrected frequencies. You go on 435, 138, lower sideband, 145, 961, upper sideband, and that is a matching pair for AO73. This takes you to the middle of the passband for that satellite. The middle of the passband. If you did nothing more than stay there, those are the two correct frequencies. Because these satellites are what's called inverting, if you go up frequency when you're listening, so on the downlink here, 961, let's say you go up and you hear someone 5 kc up, you would bring your uplink 5 kc down. Simply done. It'll track from there. You know where to begin. Begin at the mid-pass band. If you hear a QSO up, you go up on the downlink, down on the uplink. They're just inverting. So this will tell you in real time, once again, where the satellite is, where it's coming, and here is its footprint. So AO73 was just coming up to my QTH, and we had the top of South America here. We had most of the Caribbean, we had Panama. This was a nice pass. So you can see who you can expect. Sometimes you'll see a pass out here on AO7, for example, which is a much higher satellite, and you'll get parts of Europe in here. And that's how I've worked Spain and Italy and France, the UK, because it comes up in the center, but it's a low elevation pass for us, a low elevation pass for them. But it can be done. And I'll show you the antenna system I'm using, and that's the surprising part of this whole thing. So here it is, everything in one place, online, put it on your phone, put it on an iPad, whatever, when you're standing out in the parking lot trying to work if you're using a handheld antenna. So now we know which ones are working and where do we find them. Other things you can use is Ham Radio Deluxe, for example. And by the way, if I'm moving my stuff around here on the screen, I don't know if it's blocking any of this. I hope you guys are still getting a full page and not seeing me move the GoToMeeting stuff.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, thank you. So Ham Radio Deluxe has a satellite tracker, and it's kind of nice. It's very colorful. I happen to use it. My station runs on Ham Radio Deluxe. And this is a graphical representation of what satellites are coming up. So if you click on one of them, you'll get this familiar look for XW2D. You'll get a radar picture of it coming from the south up to the north. What you don't get is the frequency. So now you're going to refer to some other chart or some other, a chart that you might have. I use that web page in conjunction with Ham Radio Deluxe, so I know where to start in the mid-band of that sideband satellite, or the exact frequencies up and down for an FM satellite. You can put frequencies in on Ham Radio Deluxe by going to the tuning dial. It pops up a box, but they expect you to put in those frequencies. And sometimes it's dead on and sometimes it's dead off. It's a little iffy. That's why I like that one web page, which is supplied by AMSAT, and the other one is supplied by a fellow down in Argentina. So this is Ham Radio Deluxe, 2 views of Ham Radio Deluxe. Here is a program that, and here is by the way, if you wanted to download, link any of this, there's a 30-day trial on Ham Radio Deluxe. The link is there. This is a sat tracker that a fellow in the Great South Bay Club that I'm a member of has been working on, and it's quite incredible. You talk about a project that has project creep in it. He just started out wanting to control a rotator. The rotator is a TV antenna rotator, by the way. That used to be $149, $139. They're up a little more now, which is what I'm using here. So it started out to use an Arduino and write some code and point the antenna. Now it's gotten into, it does all of this stuff. It's self-contained. It will get you the frequencies. It'll give you the uplink and downlink correct for Doppler. It has rig control, small little box. It does everything that you need it to do if you happen to be sitting nice and warm in your shack. Again, it does elevation control, azimuth control, links. This is very nice. It's still in development. I'm kind of working with him, giving him some pointers on what the satellite guys are kind of looking for. This looks like a terrific product. Anyway, it's self-contained. That's the trick with that. SAT PC32 is another program that one can use. The link is down here. They will basically do the same. It just depends on how much programming you wish to do. I tried SAT PC32. It's okay. The GUI is, in my opinion, not very intuitive at all, but it will track. It'll give you this. It's also, I believe, free or donationware or something like that. And this will control your radio, and people have used this very successfully. And that's another choice that you have is PC32. For the Linux folks, there's Gpredict. Again, as you see, pretty similar. Here's the footprint. Here's the rig control, as azimuth elevation information. I don't know if this gives you the frequency. There might be a frequency file that you can put in to give you the frequencies. Again, like I said, I don't want to become a programmer. I'd rather operate. So I just use that web page that tells me what the frequencies are corrected for Doppler. And it makes it so simple to use. These things, you don't want to be, if you're into programming, terrific. You can sit down with these programs and get them to really sing. I'd rather operate and not become a computer programmer. The space station on APRS. There is free software, and again, the links are provided. This, if you were ever on Packet and you had that external TNC, we all had the TNCs, right? Well, now with software, the TNC is now software defined. If your radio does not have a built-in sound card, you buy a signal link, which is a sound card, plugs into your USB, and off you go. Free Packet software for APRS, but you wouldn't necessarily want to use it for APRS at your home because your home isn't going to be moving much. I like to use it for the satellite. So the companion program for this setup with this signal link plugged into your USB and into a jack on your 2-meter 440 radio, if you have a base station radio for that, you use this software, which is also a free, which is UISS 5.4. And this uses the messaging portion of APRS to send texts up and down through the APRS on the International Space Station, which is on 145.825. Very easy to hear. They've just received some new equipment, which is going to make it even better. It was flown up on the last mission up. I don't know of a schedule to put it in service right now, but it's up there and it will be going in, they say, shortly. And it'll run a little bit more power, but you can hear this pretty well. We'll show you the antennas you can use to hear this on 145.825. So you put in some messaging here, and there is your packet, like you were running in the packet days. I made a packet through here, and you go on to who's seen on the ISS, and I got my call sign on there that it did hear me and it did digipede. The VE3 was up there. There's their ID. So that's a lot of fun to, especially then if you're outside with a radio and you have a setup, maybe a D74 with the TNC built in. On those nights when you can actually see the ISS come overhead and be able to work it is kind of fun. There is also slow scan TV on the ISS on 145.800. Again, free software. Here's the listing for the software. And every so often they do special events and they'll broadcast. And let me tell you, you'll hear this in the mobile, no problem, with just a whip antenna. I've heard it come sitting in my dining room on a handheld. This is a powerful radio that they use. I think it's 25 watts. And as soon as it comes over the horizon, it's blasting in. And they'll run this for a couple of days as a special event, and they'll send slow scan TV pictures. And it's a lot of fun. Here is some software. There's a link to the software here. And I believe there's even some software that you can run on your phone and put it up to the speaker of your mobile rig sitting in the car and be able to download these pictures. I don't think I've put that up on the presentation, but I understand there is a program out there to do that. Slow scan TV on an Android. I don't know if they have it on Apple, but I know on Android. And you can download these pictures, and it's kind of fun to be able to do that. And they run it about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a year. This is the last one that I downloaded, and you can prove that you received it, and they will send you an award that you can download and put up on the wall, whatever you want to do with it. But this was an APRS SSTV award, and this was in memory of Russian cosmonauts. Okay, so what do we do for antennas? A lot of folks you see are running around with this arrow antenna, and it's 3 elements on 2 meter. And this picture, by the way, I think is the one for Alaska, which has 4 elements on 2 meters and a few more on 440. The one down here is the 3 element and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on 440. There's a duplexer that you can purchase in here. So you can just connect your HT. Most likely you will not be full duplex, and most of the satellite people want you to be full duplex, but it is the difference between what they would like and what you're going to use are 2 different things. You can plug that into your handheld and hold that antenna looking at that web page to tell you where to point, and you will make a contact. You will definitely make a contact. I have done it standing out in the driveway. It's not the easiest thing because you're running 5 watts and these other guys are running a little bit more power with more antennas, a little persistence, and you will make a contact. My first satellite contact was done that way with a half duplex handheld. And if you wanted, you can buy this arrow without the duplexer, and you can put 2 radios, maybe 2, you should pardon the expression, bofang. So what are you in for? $60 and an antenna, you give it a try, see if it's to your liking. But if you already have a handheld, as most of us do, get the duplexer built into the handle, HT, give it a whirl. If you want to get a little more serious, this is what I have done, because I went with that, standing in the driveway with that, and the neighbors looking at me like I'm a crazy man. I bought the Channel Master TV antenna rotor and a Jetstream antenna, 3 elements on 2 meters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements on 440. And what I did was I put it up on a standpipe, up on a roof, and I pointed that antenna up at 20 degrees. That they don't tell you a lot about because they want you to get, you want to get more involved. That's cool, but this is phase 2 where I'm at today. Phase 1 with the arrow in the driveway. Phase 2 is this. At 20 degrees up, the antenna has some gain. It has some nice gain, but it's not razor sharp. So most of the satellite passes are going to be between 0 and 40, 45 degrees. This works exceptionally well. All of my contacts have been made with this setup. Simply put PVC on the antenna rotator, point it up 20 degrees. Yes, when the satellite comes overhead and it gets up about 70 degrees, I no longer hear it very well. But boy, most of the passes do not come directly overhead, and that 20 degrees works very well. And there are some satellite folk who are now starting to say, yeah, you do that at 20, you'll have some fun. Or you can buy this egg beater combination, which requires no rotator, made by M Squared. It's nice. I know some people who have them. It's not the greatest, but it doesn't require a rotator and things like that. So some people are happy, some not so happy. It doesn't do the whole pass. Neither does this guy, but I don't know how much gain is in this. I hear conflicting reports about that. Now, if you really get bitten by the bug, and this is what I would say phase 3, and boy, I'm getting close to this, even with my stimulus bucks, You could buy the M2 Leo pack. These are circularly polarized 2 meter and 440 antenna with the boom, and you put it on the G5500 Yaesu rotator. And this controller, yeah, okay, you could buy that controller, but you could go back and use any one of those other controllers and software packages that I showed you, including that standalone tracker, which would do everything. So this is this was pricey it's crazy. It's a RS-232 to USB converter. It would never worth the money, but I put it in there if they wanted to, keep it all Yaesu in one brand. This Azel and controller set you back $1,000 easy, because that rotator here is about $740. Then you need cables for it, rotor cables. They made you can buy them pre-made, or you can there's an 8-pin connectors. You can make them yourself, but you're in for $1,000 by the time you're done. And with this antenna, which is pinpoint accuracy, so you really do need to have the elevation and azimuth control under control, because it's such a tight beam width. But I would imagine you'll be a lot stronger here. Now, don't forget, these are low Earth orbit satellites. They come as close as 600 kilometers, and they blast in when they come that close. And I could generally work it with my antenna, which is that thing at 20 degrees on that jet stream. I can hear the beacons down at 2 and 3 degrees, and I can make contacts to almost, I've worked them with a little power on the uplink, almost 3,300, 3,400 kilometers with that little antenna. And those contacts are possible. My contacts into Europe were only a couple of degrees high out to the east, with maybe 20 watts of power, because I don't have the greatest coax here. It's old runs, because this was only, let's just give this a try. Let's see how this works. I wasn't going to make a large investment to see if I liked it. And I've kept it that way, and it's worked out really well. But about 20 watts on 432 on sideband from an FT991. We'll get into rigs in just a minute. Been able to make contact. So here's your radio choices. You got a bunch of choices out here. The Bofang, an SDR. So let's say that you only have you can generate sideband on 432, but you don't have anything for sideband on 2 meters. You can use an SDR. You can plug in an SDR for the downlink and get something for the uplink, maybe a transverter or something for your HF rig. Those are still around. You have the 9100. I think this is discontinued, but they're available all over. An 847, a TS2000, and a THD 74. If anyone is really into a D-Star, you already have a D74. You have a sideband receiver. So again, with a transverter maybe for 432 on your HF rig, you can use this as a receiver, or an SDR, do the same thing. The only full duplex handheld around really is this 72A. If you wanted to do FM and full duplex and make sure that you know that you're making the satellite during your contact, you can acquire a D72A. I was doing some research and found that there was a Bofang, I think a UV9R Plus or something, that claims that it's a full duplex, but I have no experience with that. I've just seen the pictures of it. I'm not sure if it was maybe around $100 or so, but it was a dual bander, and they said it was full duplex, but I can't speak to that. I know I've talked to a lot of guys that are just using a pair of Bofang here on an arrow antenna. My setup is right here. I have a FT991A with that rotor control box. I have the fellow from my ham club who's working on that sat tracker had a preliminary, again, just a proof of concept box, and I use infrared, and the new one will use infrared to control the box. So I'm using that for rotor control, and I have an 817, an FT817 for the downlink. So I'm up on 435 over here because I can make up cable loss problems with a little bit of power, and listening on the 817, manually tuning everything. Once you get used to it, it's not that difficult. If you don't want to use a rig control from one of those programs, you tune for Doppler. You're always listening to yourself. You always tune Doppler on the higher frequency. So you hear yourself coming down on the satellite. You simply tune to keep yourself steady, and it works fine. You know, I don't want the computer to control everything. If I wanted that, I could stay on FT8 and FT4, which I do enjoy, but I mean, it's not much hands-on. Working the satellite's fun. It can get pretty busy if you're tuning and you're also moving the antennas around. You're trying to log. It gets busy, especially when a guy comes back and says, "Hey, Frank, how are you? Oh, I see we last worked last month." Because he could look at his log because he must have a third hand, which I don't have because I'm spinning the rotator, I'm spinning the dials for Doppler, and they are having fully computed control. But it's a lot of fun. It could be a lot of fun. Now the latest toy is the i9700. This is a heck of a radio. Tri-band, 2 meter, 440, and 1296. Buddy of mine has one. It's an extraordinary radio. It's extraordinarily expensive. It's still running about $1,500, and it's just a tri-band radio. One satellite has a 1296 uplink, and it's only on Wednesdays. And I think the same 9 people are on it every Wednesday. But it is there for 1296. But this is an exceptional radio. It is full duplex. It's SDR based. When you lock them together and you turn the VFO, the 2 meter and 440 will track on the satellite once you've established the correct frequencies and you're hearing yourself fine. When you turn the knob, it will track Doppler for you. And I think it runs 50 watts on, it's 50 watts on 2 meters, I think, 25 watts on 432, and 10 watts on 1296, which for satellite work is more than enough. But this is quite the investment. I visit the page every so often. I don't have one of these yet, not yet. But here are some links for you. I'll be uploading the. Your offices will be uploading it to your website. These are some of the places you can go for additional information. Get on to AMSAT.org. There's AMSAT UK. There's AMSAT Argentina. There's AMSAT Germany. This is the mailing list. It's a little old-fashioned. It's not Groups.io, but a wealth of information gets posted every day. It's like a bulletin board, an AMSAT bulletin board, to get some information. Now, a lot of people ask, we don't have a geosynchronous satellite. Not here. The Europeans do. They have a geosynchronous. I think it was put up from Qatar, and they put up a transponder for ham use, which is now operating. If you would like to hear it, you can go to this last website on the bottom, and it is an SDR receiver, which is pointed up at the satellite 24/7, and you can actually hear the fellows talking on it. It's quite interesting because it's always there for them, and you can listen. It doesn't have coverage here. We don't know when we're going to have a geostationary. Anyone who knows Mr. Musk has it in with him, maybe we can get a satellite up there. But for right now, all of ours are low Earth orbit. Just finally, I want to just talk about one satellite that has come back to life, which was AO7. AO7 was launched in 1974. It was piggybacked with NOAA's satellite. It worked until 1981, and it failed. But in 2002, it came back to life. The batteries had shorted on there, and it died. It had no power anymore. The satellite battery was shorted. Well, like 14 years later, whatever it was in 2002, the batteries now opened. So whenever the satellite is in sunlight, it works. You can use it, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. So we have a satellite from 1974 that we're still able to make contacts with.